Hey everybody, how's it going? This is going to be a bit more of a serious video than the others I've done recently, so hopefully you'll stick with me. On this channel, I have many videos detailing the failures of my prior businesses and several of the failures with my current business. The biggest business failure that I've had throughout my entire life was with a company called Rossmann Supply Group. Rossmann Supply Group was a company that was supposed to sell screens in a manner that they were not sold by other businesses. When I first got into this business, it was mostly MacBook screen repair that I was doing. Most vendors didn't know which parts fit which computer, so they would send you the wrong one, causing delays that would cost you money and aggravate your customers. They would send parts that were of poor quality. They would send stuff that was used, or sometimes they would say stuff was in stock when it wasn't actually in stock, which again would screw up the works if you had a customer waiting on something. I realized that what if I just started a company that actually said, this is compatible with this, and it was, because the person who said that, who made the website and who shipped the product, was an actual technician working in the industry. What if I created a type of parts company that I would want to buy from? After 2 years of being in this business and a few months of just selling a couple of parts on the side every now and then, someone who had given me one of my first business loans decided to go in with me 80-20 on a supply company and provide the seed capital for this business. This business is a business that throughout 2011 drained most of my time and a lot of my life. I would wake up at around 6 in the morning in order to get to work at 8 so that I could do the shipping and everything else, so that by 12 or 1 o'clock I could actually start taking repairs for the repair shop that would typically open at 12. And I would, at times, before I had a shop, I would actually carry the packages to the post office that was about 14 or 16 blocks away from me, and I would actually tape about 20 or 30 boxes together, carry 15 boxes of screens on this arm, 15 on the other, and when someone would call for customer service, I remember at one point, because I didn't have the thing where you could just say answer, this wasn't around in 2011, I remember at one point, my low point, actually smashing my head into the side of some nasty abandoned van, trying to hit the answer button on my headset, because I knew if I did not hit the answer button on the headset, that given how hot it was outside, how heavy the boxes were, and how tired I was, I would not pick them back up and go to the post office. And I was incapable of paying for an office at this period of time. I was also unable to have them pick them up at my house because you would have to choose a specific time of day. That cost $15 a day at the time, which I did not have, and I needed to be able to do house calls to my repair customers. This was a business that took up a lot of my time, and as it grew, a lot of my sanity and a lot of my life. When I look back at my early 20s, I see a lot of time that I did not spend on relationships with people. I see a lot of missed opportunities for friendships. I see a lot of news that I missed out on, that I was not really aware of everything that was going on in the world because I was solely focused on my business. There are television shows that I did not keep up with. There was sleep that I did not have because I was putting so much time into that business. And at some point, it completely and utterly consumed me to the point where I didn't even notice that my site was refunding people 7 days after a sale because someone set it to authorize rather than authorize and capture. I found that out on Thanksgiving, that I was working myself to death so badly that I did not even notice that $30,000 just didn't show up. We were able to recover about $21,000 of it. $9,000 was just people that realized they got something for free and never went anywhere. But it was that moment that I knew that I screwed up. I came home and I sat in my recliner until about 3 or 4 in the morning, and I moped, and I was sad. I wasn't sad over the loss of money. I was sad over the fact that the work that I had done over the past 9 to 10 months of my life, the stress that I put myself through, the amount of work that I did so that I could run a company that, with limited funds, not only gave people a good customer experience, but also gave them good products and good parts the way I wish to be served as a customer. There was a lot of work that I put into this. When I say that I know the difference between a B133EW07 and a B133EW04, I actually know what those numbers are. And for over 5,000 different model computers, I could tell you specifically which model screen fit which computer. I had a website that, regardless of what model machine you had, I could tell you the specific model screen and any cross-compatible screen for that particular model machine. This was a business that got it right. and I was very proud of it. All of that was for nothing because I was actually worth less money. The company was worth less money at that point than it was in the very beginning, meaning that all of that time was a complete and utter waste. I sat and I moped and I thought, this is the end. I have screwed up a once-in-a-million opportunity to do something with my life, to dig myself out of the hole that I was in. I remember the person that I walked up to and spoken to. It was an interesting story. I was speaking with my friend, and we were both at a recording studio with someone who got high on cocaine all the time. And when he was loaned money, it would often go up his nose rather than into the business. And I remember finding loan documents for about $70,000 with my friend sitting on a bass amp in one of the rehearsal rooms. And we saw that it was to the owner. And I was drunk at the time, and I was drinking with my friend. I lost my shit. I went back to the person that loaned the money and said, do you know what I would have done with that? You give me 10% of that, I would have built an empire, and you gave it to a cokehead. And I laid out completely why it was that business was destined to fail, even if the owner wasn't a cokehead, even if it had full occupancy. Here's how much money they're able to make. Here's what the rooms are worth. Here's what it would cost to make them worth more. Here's the rent of the place. This is never going to work. Look what I could have done with this. I was mad. It was righteous anger and indignation at the fact that for years and years, I had been killing myself, honestly, and just getting by. Whereas people who were charlatans and scammers and liars were just, oh yeah, here, take some money. Oh, you need five. Do you need 5 figures of money or 6? Here you go. Oh, yeah, I'm not even going to check to see why it is you smell like that or you sniffle all the time. Just take it. It's aggravated. And within 1 year, I managed to destroy that opportunity. And I felt disgusting for it. I felt like a horrible human being. I sat in my chair until about 4 a.m, until I decided I'm not going to let pity get the best of me. I'm going to do something about this. I am going to put together a plan as to how I can try and recover that money. Then I'm going to pretend that if that money's gone, what type of new business can I run with the less that is available, and is this viable going into the future? And I did recover something that was able to stumble along. 1 year later, I realized that the decreasing profit margins, because of how I look to expand the business, and I spoke about this in my other business failure videos, how I tried to expand into areas that were not as profitable, but assume if someone else is profiting at it, I should try to do the same thing they're doing, even if it doesn't make sense. That was a bad strategy. Trying to scale from a business that sold this many rare parts a day to this many parts a day, even if they're just everyday parts that everybody else sells that are not particularly rare or special, with low profit margins, didn't work. I did a calculation of inventory, and it was clear to me that the inventory was shrinking. There were parts that were not accounted for, that were either broken in transit, or parts that were returned that I wasn't able to get money back from the vendor, or there were times that we simply had to refund someone, or that Amazon would refund someone without actually having them send the product back. There were many things that contributed to a shrinking value of inventory, or there were simply items that just didn't sell over long periods of time, or items that were marked down because they were worth less before I could even finish selling them. It was at that point that I was able to put 2 and 2 together, that I had not simply wasted 1 year of my life. I had wasted 2 years of my life. And this is the stuff that can hit you later on. It's not necessarily the money that hurts. It was the time. There were really stupid things that wound up going through my head there. And they probably seem really stupid, and it's kind of embarrassing to put it out there. But I remember one of the first things going through my head when I got to the true end of this company was thinking to myself, since we were sitting around a place in the neighborhood that I was in the East Village, there's all these different restaurants, all these different bars, comedy clubs, all sorts of stuff. And I was just thinking, really silly, I'm never going to have gone to one of these places with friends where I had black hair. It's a stupid thing that came to mind. But I think what was coming to mind at that time was the time that you could have spent being young, doing these things that young people do, going to all these places, meeting people, you spent at work. And you never took the time to engage in what it is that other people engage in their early 20s. You caused yourself so much stress that your hair is now gray. And not only have you gotten to a point where your hair is gray, but you have nothing to show for it. It's not like you're stressed because you're a millionaire. It's not like you're stressed because you have you even have 100,000 to show for it. At that point in time, at that point in my life, all of that stress was for nothing. It's not like you're stressed because you took part in all these great charitable events and activism that made the world a better place. You have gray hair because you spent years of your life stressed out of your mind, and you have nothing to show for it. That is what the lack of money represented to me. At the end of the failure, the lack of money did not represent that I did not have green pieces of paper. It represented years of my time that I can never get back. And it hit me horribly. It wasn't the money that bothered me. It wasn't the money that mattered. It was the time that had passed that I threw away, that made me feel sick to my stomach, that made me want to just sit in my chair, that made me feel like I was dead inside. I felt like I had that robbed from me. Because had I done something with that time, even if I had failed, it would be one thing. But to work towards creating something and put all that time into something, and for it to fail like that, feels horrible. One of the reasons that I've tried to do the work that I do with this company, when I teach other people how to do repairs, making the 600 or 800 repair videos, doing the wiki, working to push Right to Repair forward, trying to change the industry so that if this business fails, if this goes bankrupt, if I do something stupid and I put my own personal money in to try to save this as a company and it fails and all goes to the ground, that in the future I can look and I could see that there was an impact on the world that was positive, that even if my business fails financially, that my time will not have been wasted. So that when I do get to that point where everything fails, where everything goes to shit, where Cuomo finally walks through my door one day and says, Louis, you're no longer essential, and by the way, we're taking all of your money because it's New York, that I won't just sit down and want to cry the way that I did before, because I'll be able to look and see that the time that I spent was for something. Money is just paper. Money represents nothing. The only reason that we pretend money means something is because we're conditioned to believe it means something. What money means is a certain amount of our time. Seconds, minutes, hours, days, years off of our life that we could have spent doing something else, that we instead chose to spend on these pursuits in the hopes that perhaps we could buy ourselves a house, or that we could retire, or that we could have a secure future for ourselves and our loved ones. Or maybe we could use that money to accomplish something or work towards a goal that we have, that we couldn't have before. Once that dies, the feeling that I had inside, the feeling of just being dead inside, that feeling of genuine sadness and depression, it wasn't at the loss of the money. It was at the loss of my time. It was also at the loss of the opportunities that I could have taken part in during that time that I did not take part in because I was busy doing what I was doing. And that's what hurt me the most when that company failed. It was the years of time that I had put in that I knew I could have spent doing any other number of things. And had I done any other number of things, I actually might have been better off for it, because had I done any other number of things, I would have had more money. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I see a lot of people that are saying things, and I know this is going to get pushback. I know this is going to get hate, but it needs to be said. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial services professional. You should seek a professional person for financial advice. This is just my opinion. There are many people saying that if you purchase into a meme stock at 300 or 500 or 700 or 900 or 2 or whatever, that even if you know that it is going to go to $4, well, you should ride or die. Now, there are people who say, well, I know I'm going to lose everything. You don't understand. I know I'm going to lose everything, but I'm willing to do it to stick it to the man. And one of the things that I said in the video that I did recently, at the very end of it, and I hope people listen to that part, do you mean that? One of the things I noticed as I get older is that most people don't lie to other people. They don't lie to me. They lie to themselves. And then they tell me what they believe is the truth once they believe their own lie. So once they've convinced themselves that something is true that is not true, once they tell it to me, it's not a lie because they believe it. We don't lie to others as much as we lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves more than anybody in the world. So the question that I would have is, are you being truthful with yourself? When you look at your brokerage account, when you look at what you put in, are you really okay with that amount going back down to zero? Because I read this everywhere. Even if it goes to zero, I just want to burn them. One of the things that I've mentioned when I went on Yahoo Finance and at other points in my videos is that what I invested was approximately 1% of my total portfolio. The reason I did that is because I don't want to invest an amount that, having a good chance of going all the way down, would cause me great anger, depression, and misery. Because the money that I invest is not money. It's not paper. What that represents is time. It represents girlfriends that I never put the effort into. It represents friends that I didn't see when they were in trouble. It represents parties and events and concerts that I didn't go to. It represents an entire Lower East Side, which is essentially a neighborhood that is designed for people who are in their 20s, who are professionals, who have a little bit of money to spend to be able to go out and enjoy life, enjoy comedy shows, enjoy other people, enjoy the bars, enjoy the restaurants that I didn't spend time in so that I could make a business that then makes me money. And when I look at it that way, it makes it easier for me to make grounded investments. It makes it a little bit more difficult for someone to take that from me when that's how I see it. When I see the money, not as a piece of paper, not as a tool, but as units of my life that I will never get back. Memories that I will never create because during the time that I would have spent creating those memories, I was at work or sitting in an office or bubble wrapping screens or whatever. I know the feeling. I know what it feels like when you put 2 years of your life into something, 3 or 4 years in, and it crashes to a complete pile of rubble that is worthless, that no one remembers, that no one cares about, that was not productive for society, that added nothing to it. It's horrible. It's devastating. And at that point, it's impossible to lie to yourself. So the ask I have with this video is to be 100% honest with yourself. Really try. Step outside yourself for a moment. And it's hard to do this. I've started to do this with myself more recently and it's helped me become less aggravated when someone says something that goes against what I believe ideologically. Ask yourself, is this something that you are okay with? It's one thing if you believe that the stocks that you purchased are genuinely going to go to the moon and have zero chance to go down, which, to be clear, I don't think that's the case. Not a financial services professional. This is just my opinion. This is not investment advice. But if you know that something is going to crash, in your heart you know that, are you being honest with yourself when you say that you are okay riding that in to the very ground? It's weird to me because I am seeing a lot more people come out, large names, that are telling people that are considerably poorer than them, absolutely, buy as much as you can, hold the line, buy as much as you can. They're not saying, I'm holding the line. They're saying, I want you to as well. I believe there is a difference between someone saying what they are doing and someone saying what you should be doing. I also believe there is a difference between some you/random fuckhead whatever saying what he thinks you should be doing, and then someone that actually has a name and a reputation and a pedigree and an identity behind them with some sense of authority saying what you should be doing. That worries me. That troubles me. I don't like seeing that, particularly when the people with the identity are worth considerably more money than the people that they're speaking to, and encouraging to do something without ensuring that they really know the long-term consequence of it. And I think it is somewhat irresponsible when people who are incredibly, incredibly wealthy tell people who are incredibly, incredibly poor that even if you know that what it is you're putting money in, and you admit it to yourself, will at some point go very close to zero, that you should buy in the several hundreds. That's something I just want people to consider. I want you to think about it. Think about how many years of your life are represented by that dollar amount? And are you okay with that amount going away? Because if you are, then I have no place to tell you what you should do. I am not your daddy. I am not your mommy. I am not your uncle. I am most certainly not a financial services professional, definitely not an investment advisor, and I'm most certainly a person just giving his opinion. I don't have the right to tell you what you should do or what you can do with your own life. That's not my place. What I want to do is get across the idea that when you are making decisions as to what you are going to do with your own life, do not look at it as numbers on a screen or green pieces of paper. Measure what you are willing to lose in units of your life. What could you have done with those units of your life that you didn't do because you were using that time to amass the capital that now represents your investment? And how much of that time are you willing to be able to say, I could have done X instead, but I did this for your investment? If you are willing to allow it to go to zero. If you are one of those individuals who says, this is not to make money, this is to make a statement, and I will make that statement with all that I've got. Because that's how it feels when it comes crashing down. When that happens, when the loss occurs, if you're saying, I'm okay with losing it all, the way it feels at the end is the loss of time. That's what hits you. And only you can say to yourself what you're willing to deal with, what you are willing to live with. Only you can say, this is enough. This is when I've had enough. I know for myself where the line is. When I was running something that had failed, and I refused to accept that it had failed, I was willing to continue wasting a certain portion of my life on it. But at some point, I said, this is enough. I knew where the line was for me. And I hope that everybody knows where the line is for them as well. And I hope you don't let anybody else set that line for you. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.